Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Bible in 1 year with the preacher's husband. And today we are in Genesis chapter 22, 23, and 24. So chapter 22 starts out talking about the sacrifice of Isaac. Now we're not going to go through the whole story, but this picture really tells a tale about it. This is a beautiful picture that was painted back in the 1600s, and it even shows the ram that was in the background that God had provided as a sacrifice, and the angel of the Lord stopping Isaac. But what I found really interesting about this story was right at the beginning. In verse 5, it says, "Then Abraham said to his young men, 'Stay here with the donkey. The boy and I will go over there to worship. Then we'll come back to you.'" So in my interpretation of this, and what I'm seeing is he had every intention of going back. Abraham had faith that God was going to provide the sacrifice, as he soon told Isaac. He cuts all the wood. He hands the wood to Isaac, says, "Here we're going to go make a sacrifice." He grabs a knife in his hand, and he gets the fire in the other hand, and he heads over to make the sacrifice. And Isaac asked him, "Daddy, where's the lamb that we're going to slaughter here? There's no sacrifice." And Abraham told him, "The Lord will provide the sacrificial lamb." And that he did in the end of the story. The angel of the Lord stopped him as he had tied up Isaac and basically said, "Since you have done what I've instructed you, I'm going to provide you with the sacrifice because you have good faith." And then we learn about Nahor's family, which includes Rebekah. So enter Rebekah. Well, who's Rebekah? You'll find out about Rebekah in a little bit. We get to chapter 23, and guess what happens? Sarah dies. That's right. Sarah passes away. So Abraham is upset about this. Isaac is upset about this. But a problem comes along with that. And the problem being that Abraham and Sarah, they lived in an alien land. They didn't own any property there. They didn't have the burial property to bury Sarah. So Abraham had to go find a place to bury Sarah. And he went and talked to the people of the land, and they were all very kind about it. And they said, "We'll give you a place to bury Sarah." Several of them offered. They said, "Just ask any of us, and we will give you a place to bury Sarah." Well, he specifically said, "Well, if that's the case, all right, I want this field over here with these caves, and we'll bury her in these caves, but it's owned by this person." And that person's like, "Yeah, I'll give that to you. I won't just give you the cave. I'll give you the field to go with it as well." And Abraham's like, "But I'm going to pay you full price for this. You're not going to give me this. I'm going to pay for it." That talks a little bit about his character, how he wasn't just going to take a handout here. He was going to own it. He was going to do this the right way, the way that it should be done. And no, this is not really a case where it's denying somebody a blessing. This was Abraham acting with good character and paying his way, as we all should. We should pay our part. Now, if he was not able to and he didn't have the money to pay, it was 400 silver shekels is what the land was worth, and he had it and he paid it. So that's what the story is basically saying, that he had the money, so he paid it. If he didn't, he could have taken it, and it would have been a blessing to him, and that person would have been able to do a good deed for that to happen. Now, after this happened, Abraham wanted Isaac to have comfort. So to do that, he wanted Isaac to have a wife. So he sends a servant in search for a wife for Isaac. And not just any wife, and not just anywhere. He sent him back to his brother's homeland, Nahor's homeland, to find a woman from there. So he goes back, and this is a very extensive story. But a few things stood out to me about this story. One, when the servant runs into Rebekah, she was everything that the Lord had described to Abraham, and Abraham described to the servant. She absolutely fit it to a T. And then, of course, She brought him water. She brought water for the camels. Then she invited him back after some discussion to their place to stay the night with her family. And after he discusses this with their family the next day, they decide that maybe this is a good idea. So the family is all agreed upon this as well, that Rebekah from Nahor's family, as we spoke about earlier, would marry Isaac. But what stood out to me the most was verse 57. In verse 57 it says, "So they said, 'Let's call the girl and ask her opinion.' They called Rebekah and said to her, 'Will you go with this man?' And she said, 'I will go.'" So she basically said, "Sure, I got this." And that's rare. That shows how much they really loved Rebekah, how much Rebekah was truly loved by her family, that they cared enough for her to even want her opinion. Because in these days, that's not how it worked. Typically, a man didn't even see his wife before they were married, and it was arranged. And like, here, this is who you're going to marry. They're all veiled. They get married, and then you get to see your wife after you marry him. Well, they never asked the wife whether she wants to marry the boy or not. The girl's never asked. It's never her choice, but they actually gave her a choice here. And that stood out a lot to me. That meant a lot. But she was like, "Yeah, let's do this. I will go." And she did. And as it turns out, Abraham's goal was to have Isaac to be comforted after the loss of Sarah. And Rebekah did just that. The very last verse. Isaac brought her into the tent of his mother Sarah and took Rebekah to be his wife. Isaac loved her, and he was comforted after his mother's death. And that is the end of our Bible verses, our Bible scripture for the day. Now tomorrow we're going to come back and do chapters 25 and 26, just 2 chapters for tomorrow. So I hope this has touched you. If it has, please share it. Click the like button, the subscribe button, and click the little jingle bell at the end there so you can get notified the next time I upload a video. And I will see you tomorrow.